A man in a room full of women is ecstatic. A woman in a room full of men is terrified. It was International Women's Day just a few days ago. Since then, a woman said she was suicidal at one point due to how the British media behaved towards her, and since been called a liar. A woman that was kidnapped and killed by a police officer was blamed for walking alone at night, drinking alcohol and wearing headphones. And a study was recently published that found that 97% of women in the UK aged 18 to 24 experience sexual harassment in public areas. Men are the cause of this. This stops now. It can be uncomfortable as men to talk about and appreciate these issues, but this is nothing in comparison to what women will endure during their lifetime. In order to stop this happening, we as men need to take responsibility, educate ourselves, and start supporting women. This starts by recognizing the problems women face. The most obvious problems women face are things like sexual harassment and workplace discrimination, which I will go on to talk about later. However, I think to best appreciate the struggles women face, you need to understand how deeply ingrained sexism is in modern society. Growing up, women are subconsciously taught through people, media, and culture to appeal to the male gaze. The male gaze is a term coined by Laura Mulvey to describe the way women are portrayed as objects in media, which then influences every facet of their life and identity. Everyday rituals such as applying makeup, shaving, doing their hair, and choosing their clothes become subconsciously filtered through the desires of the all-powerful male gaze. Women are expected to perform these rituals in order to be treated with the same respect men are afforded for just showing up as they are. At the same time, women are also taught that femininity is associated with weakness, growing up around phrases such as acting like a girl, men using girly as an insult, the word pussy being synonymous with weakness and cowardice. Women are forced to find their balance to appeal enough to the male gaze to be respected, but not too much to seem weak and shallow. Successful women are never treated the same as their male counterparts. They can work twice as hard and will be laughed at, shamed, and called selfish for trying to achieve the same lifestyle, something men are praised for. Words like slag, hoe, slut are aimed to shame women that have sex, yet this is exactly something men are praised for. If a woman has too much sex, they're a slut. If they reject a man, they're seen as prude. Even in advertising, women's bodies and cleavage are used by companies to sell products, yet at the same time, women get told to cover up when breastfeeding a child, an example of how men have sexualized a perfectly natural process. There is always a double standard for women. These examples just scratch the surface and show how embedded sexism is in today's society, to the extent that most men will hardly ever realize. Sexual harassment has been so normalised in our culture that many men that perpetuate it may be completely oblivious to the harm they cause and how this is utterly unacceptable. Sexual harassment is defined as unwanted behaviour of a sexual nature which violates your dignity, makes you feel intimidated, degraded or humiliated, and creates a hostile or offensive environment. The most common form of this is catcalling, also known as street harassment. Men will often justify catcalling by saying it's a compliment.
Do you think women appreciate getting complimented like that on the street?
Certain women do. They love attention.
Catcalling is not a compliment. It is an aggressive act of power that can instill fear and leave long-lasting psychological effects. It is based in deep-rooted gender inequality, which sees women's bodies as not their own. This is not rare. Sexual harassment happens to 97% of women. 97%. This is completely unacceptable and cannot continue to occur. As men, we need to create a culture where harassing women in this way is utterly unacceptable. We are the cause of this problem, and it's our responsibility to stop this. In order to make a significant cultural change, it is said it only takes 10% of men to change their attitude and behaviour to influence the majority of men. So here are some practical suggestions about what men should be doing to help support women. Number 1. Educate yourself. It's so easy to ignore these issues because at the end of the day, they won't affect us as men. If you're a man watching this, then that's already a step in the right direction, but there's so much more to learn. Reading books can be a really good way to understand the issues at a more in-depth level. I'm currently reading the book Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Gibbs, which I found has been a really eye-opening insight into feminism. You could also watch videos on YouTube that talk about these issues coming from women themselves. Some channels that I really like are Shan Spear and Madison Brown. On a more personal level, when women talk to you about their experiences of harassment and sexism, just listen, learn, and most importantly, believe them. Affirming things you can say to victims are, "Thank you for trusting me with your story. I believe you. How can I help support you?" Messages like these will help move away from the victim-blaming culture we have currently. It is absolutely essential to call out others when they make sexist comments and jokes. Hopefully, as you educate yourself, you'll inspire others around you to also take an interest, but at the same time, they may not. They may say you've taken it too far or you're being too sensitive, but know that by calling out comments you know are wrong, you are doing the right thing and helping make progress. Just remember, while everyone should be held accountable for their actions, it's important to allow for room to grow and educate. It's important to be aware of how you come across as a male. If a woman is walking alone, try and leave distance between you and her so she knows you're not following her, and try and keep your face visible if walking near a woman at night. These small gestures can help women feel safer and reduce their fear of attack. By sending letters and emails to places of education, you can help encourage education about sexual harassment on a larger scale. Coming from an all-boys school, I realised how awful it was that we were never formally educated about sexual harassment towards women. Education at a young age about these issues and their consequences is key to creating a large-scale cultural shift. By not teaching students that things such as catcalling is wrong, it continues to normalise this form of harassment. By writing letters to places of education, we may see more teaching about the damage that comes with sexual harassment, and this could see a change in attitudes in the future. But it's not all men, right? I would never sexually harass a woman. This doesn't apply to me because I'm one of the good ones. When people say it's all men, rather than getting defensive, it's important to realise they're pretty much right. It is all men, myself included. We as men have not done enough to stop this happening. The fact that 97% of women aged 18 to 24 have been sexually harassed in public areas is completely unacceptable. And quite frankly, men have caused this. There's no other way to explain it. So now, as men, we have the responsibility to help change this. It's time to finally stop ignoring these issues at hand and tackle them head on. Men have to do better and do all we can to help change cultural attitudes towards women. Even me making this video as a man, I will never be able to fully comprehend what women will go through, as I've never lived that experience. But what I can do is try and educate myself using resources that come from women themselves. And I suggest that every man watching this video does the same. In the description box, I will leave a link to a number of different resources and charities that I really suggest you check out. I'm fully aware that everything I've said in this video has come from a man's perspective, but for men to remain silent is to remain complicit to this sexist society that we have created. Now is the time to raise your voice.